today we're going to talk about struggling because, there's just too much positivity out in the world. I'm kidding. But, I want to be a part of the people who paint realistic pictures of what it is like to do something. I want to be a part of the club of people who are telling the truth. It's easy to forget because we don't see it, all of the struggles and hard parts behind the scenes. What's really happening behind that painting? And with painting, especially oil painting, there's a lot of struggle. It's a very difficult medium to learn in the beginning, and there are a lot of factors and steps and things you may need to support the process. It's not as easy as picking up some watercolors and just having a little glass of water to wash your brush. It's a little bit more difficult. So, I just want to talk about some struggles I've experienced as an oil painter. So maybe this will help you feel a little more seen. Okay, so for one, drying time. Oil paint takes a little while to dry, and it can really test our patience. For example, with this painting right here, I had to wait for each layer of the grass to dry before I could do the next one. So you really have to kind of plan your days. You can't just do everything in one day. That's why I really like to have multiple paintings going at once, because of those drying times. And of course, you can, do wet on wet, or paint, alla prima, all in one sitting, or you can learn about different, mediums that will actually speed up the drying time. So those are helpful as well. Oh my gosh, mixing colors is one of the biggest struggles I've experienced as an oil painter, and I know I'm not alone. It is so easy to make mud and ugly colors, and it's very hard to make beautiful, vibrant colors that all look good together and don't mix together. It's a struggle. I think really experimenting and learning what brands you like, what colors you really, gravitate towards, and that end up drying well on your canvas, that can help. Learning about color theory is so important. And kind of just practice and trial and error as well. I sort of tried multiple colors and brands, and I realized I really like Gamblin. That's kind of my favorite brand. I always stick to Gamblin now. And a simple rule, if you're a beginner, is to just stick with warm on warm and cool on cool when you're mixing. So if you want to mix a blue and a yellow, find a cool yellow, like a lemon yellow, and then a cool blue. Also sticking to pure colors. Ultramarine blue is an example of a pure color. A lot of colors will have multiple colors mixed in, and you can look all this up online. So yeah, that has been great for me. Another struggle that I've had such a hard time with is painting loose. I'm sure a lot of you are like, yes, me too. I feel like most painters kind of start out as a tight painter, which means you want to do every detail that you see, and you probably start painting in the corner of the painting, and you try to make every area perfect instead of doing a whole underpainting and moving around the canvas easily. It's more difficult because it kind of takes confidence to move around the canvas and take up space, right? It's easier to sort of just copy the photo exactly and to fit in every detail. But I'm not a huge fan of photorealism. Maybe you want to do that, which is fine. But for me, painting loose has been a goal, and painting looser and really being able to capture light with less brushstrokes. Less is more, So I still struggle with this to this day all the time, but a few things have been helpful. There are some physical techniques like holding your brush kind of like this and with an arm's length. I know a lot of teachers actually teach keep your arm out straight while you're learning how to paint loose, and keep it there and until you get better. Again, doing an underpainting, making sure you move around the canvas, having a limited palette of colors, timing yourself, saying, okay, only 30 minutes to paint this painting and I have to complete it. That will get you painting loose for sure. Just practicing, watching, people on YouTube who actually paint loose. Chelsea Lang, I believe, is awesome. She does this. Paint Coach is really good on YouTube. Focusing on the big shapes. Break your painting up into 3 to 7 sections and focus on the large shapes that you see. Squint your eyes. You could even take a picture of your photo and put it in black and white or sepia and turn up the contrast to really just see the shapes. That's really helpful. So there are so many different techniques, but if you are struggling to paint loose, you're not alone. Let's talk about cleanup and safety. one of the biggest areas of struggle for oil painters. Now, I just recently did a whole video about how I dispose of all my materials, chemicals, how I clean up, everything. So if you are a beginner or like struggling with this specifically, go watch that video because I go super into depth and it'll just cover everything you need from rags, chemicals like Gamsol or safflower oil, how to dispose of those, how to dispose of dried paint, like I said, paint rags, all of that. But yeah, this was definitely a trial and error process, and I kind of changed up my process a few times to find out what works. And there are multiple ways of approaching it. Like with the rags specifically, you can either like soak them in water or you can let them dry out. And as long as you're being safe, that's all that matters. There's also so many like mediums and solvents and gels and like things like that out there. And I encourage you just to keep it simple in the beginning. You can always try stuff later, but for me, I keep it super simple. Oil paint, I like safflower oil, and then I have brushes, like that's it, canvas. A really big struggle can be drying space and storage space, especially if you live in a big city, because we know rent prices are crazy these days and square footage is going down for the price, I actually just moved from San Diego, California to my hometown in Kentucky. So I went from a very, very large, expensive city to a very like Midwestern, normal size city. And I went from a 600 square foot tiny apartment to like almost 1,300 huge house. And let me tell you, it is so much better having space. However, I was a painter for 6+ years in that tiny apartment. I also did a whole video about this, about how to paint in small spaces as an artist and how to, deal with that. And there are so many ways that you can approach it, whether it's using your walls and moving vertical for storage and for drying, having drying racks, having like foldable and collapsible art furniture or storage units, even renting out a separate art studio if you can afford it. I can't personally, but yeah. And this can also be a struggle if you live with your parents or roommates or, just have other people in the house, kids, all of that. So I feel you if you're going through this and you're like, oh man, I wish I could just have my own space. It is really stressful, and I felt like that for a long time. And no matter where you're living, you can set yourself up for success in creating. You just have to be a little bit strategic and, think about your space that you have, the schedule, like the time of day, like when are your roommates gone? When are your kids at school? That kind of thing. Do you have a room where you can close a door? Or do you have a garage or outdoor space where you can set up something? Think about all those type of things and, just work with what you have. And I wish you well if you're dealing with, this problem. Something that I've struggled with really, really badly, and I'm just sort of now getting more of the hang of it, is composition. Like, what the heck do I paint? How do I display it? What kind of style do I want to have? Like, all of that is very, very challenging, especially with like social media and everything. Like, we just constantly see a million types of art, a million themes and color palettes. Like, how do we choose what we want to do? And this is so difficult. Okay, so what's helped me? Trial and error, like making a lot of bad paintings and like basically hating like every painting, and then finally liking one or two here and there. And then when I like those paintings, really sticking with those themes and like going full force into it, I recently discovered that I like grass and fence paintings, and I also kind of like to sort of collage different elements. That's taken me a long time to figure out because I've hated every painting I've made for the past like 5 years almost, except for a few. So when you do make something that you love, really, really take that seriously. What colors are in that painting? What themes? What subject matter? What ideas? And really study when you like something. And same if you're just scrolling on social media or you like a specific artist, what do you like about them? Ask yourself. Is it the lines, the patterns, the looseness, the tightness, the fact that there's people or landscape, or the light they captured? All of those things, like really ask yourself and write them down and try to, work in those elements and tune out the rest, because also like focus on what you love, not just what you like. Like for me, I'm thinking of an artist right now who all her paintings are pink. They're all like very pink and white and like thick with like almost piping. very like Barbie, you know? And I really like them, but I don't love them as much as I love this other artist that kind of has like nature elements and collage elements. Like that I really, really love. I like the pink, but you know, trying to tune out the things that we like and just really hone in on a few elements that we love and experimenting and, you know, testing them out, that is also helpful. And also thinking about like ideas that we want to convey, like what are we passionate about in life? Do we want to have a message? Do we want to, you know, have subjective art that is about activism or love or sadness or something like that, or just the beauty of nature? Like, what do we want to convey? And thinking about subject matter in that area, that can be our composition. Lastly, I would say something that I've struggled with a lot is what types of brushstrokes do I want to have? So I feel like for a little while I did a lot of like impressionistic type paintings with short, choppy brushstrokes where everything looked kind of alive and moving. And then I've also done paintings that are a little bit more tight or realistic, like not realism or hyperrealism, but just more painting from a photo, trying to get accurate colors, like it's not as painterly or feathery, you know, as Impressionism. So kind of deciding of like, I like all of these movements in art. I like Impressionism, I like Expressionism, I like Surrealism, I like, you know, all of them. Which one do I do? And, or can I do a mix? You know, I've kind of asked myself that too. Can I do a mix? Can I do some areas like impressionistically and then other areas more just blended, you know, and not having to put a label on it either, like just kind of painting from my heart and not overthinking it. Like that's really been helpful too. And I think this really does come with practice, which is annoying because if you're a beginner, you're like, I want to know now. I don't want to have to like paint for 10 years to like learn the secrets. But I would say again, what style do you like and what comes naturally for you when you're painting? Try them all out. I actually have a bunch of videos here on YouTube about like different brush strokes. If you want to learn like different particular brush strokes, pointillism, scumbling, things like that, like it's good to try all the techniques and have those in your tool belt, and also experiment with having multiple in a painting and see if you can make it work, or having some parts of your painting really blended and others a little bit loose. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're struggling out there with oil paint, you are not alone. It's a very difficult, you know, thing to master and tackle, but is well worth it and is very, you know, valuable and rewarding. I absolutely love the medium, and the more comfortable you get with it, it really just gives back to you, I promise. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers soon, so I would love you in this, you know, world with me. And I'm just wishing you a wonderful week full of creating and effortless painting. Yeah, just have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.